And if you haven't seen the movie, just check today's date out, 2/2/22, over and over again. So anyway, happy Groundhog Day. And boy, do we have a great show for you this afternoon. I will let Mary introduce the wonderful Pastor Rick Craig, and we'll go into that more later. But you know that I am here because I believe in hope, helping older people engage. And to that end, I have developed the Success in Aging Essentials box. And you can go read all about that at successinaging.com. So with no further ado, Mary, introduce Pastor Rick.
Awesome. She's obviously so excited to get you on. We
She is.
We had to take care of all that housekeeping.
Friends, so that's even better. But anyway, Mary, go on.
Yes. So if you have been keeping up with us, today is our second show today because, again, it's Groundhog Day. So we're just going to keep going on live all day long. All day long. Yeah. So just, for your viewing pleasure. So again, little housekeeping. If you're just joining us, I'm about to introduce our amazing guest. Super excited about him and his new book. But if you have any comments, please put them in our comments field.
Please.
And if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them live. So he's going to be talking about a lot of really heavy subjects today, but it's such a blessing because it's something we all need to hear, right?
All need to hear
and so it's very, very, very important that we ask questions here because you have an expert sitting in front of you.
Sure
and if you know of anyone who might need this, if this would bless them, we ask you to please share it. And so they can hear it or tag them in the post below. So without further ado, let me introduce the wonderful Pastor Rick Craig. He's joining us today for a discussion about his new book, When It's Time, and he might actually show us a picture of that. Pastor Rick has authored this book that is filled with end-of-life planning that he has learned from personal experience through the loss of his parents, his brother, and his wife. In addition, on a professional level, Rick has officiated funerals and memorials for church and community members for over 20 years in Napa, California, and the surrounding area. Mm-hmm. Such a gorgeous area. Oh, my goodness. Through his experience sitting with families that now exceeds 400 survivors, Rick has now given us a gift by putting it all into his one resource called When It's Time. This amazing book. I'm so thrilled to have you on the show. And I now am going to let the two of you talk because Di has a lot of wonderful questions for you. So Rick, again, thank you for being on the Success in Aging show.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mary. Really appreciate it. Okay, Rick, let's get into this because this is going to be a meaty show. Mm-hmm. As I just alluded to, Rick and I have known each other over 50 years. We went to high school together. We have lots of fun memories from that. And he has gone on to do some amazing things with his life through his education, experience, and expertise. When I heard Rick was writing a book about end-of-life issues, I was so thrilled that someone was finally going to do a very good job at it. And he has. I have read this book. It's marvelous. And so, Rick, let's get into this. What is your history and what gives you the background to write this book?
Well, the history goes back to pre-being a pastor. I was in the business world.
Okay.
And so I had a lot of experience dealing with things like bereavement leave and just other employee benefits and things like that.
Right.
Then when I went into ministry, the Lord called me, went back to school for 2.5 years.
Awesome.
Worked part-time at the church I was at in Southern California, then called to Napa full-time in ministry.
Wonderful.
And that was 20 years ago. And I was at that church for 17.5 years.
Okay.
And one of the bigger ministries that I was involved in was pastoral care. That was counseling and the other parts of the ministry, weddings, funerals, memorials. And I spent a lot of time doing that. Then I went back to school again in my 60s. And so going back to school a lot. Yeah. So what I learned from that after now it's been well over 150 funerals, but sitting with, again, as Mary said, over 400 people doing family interviews in preparation for funerals, memorials, or even people just coming in from the community or within the church wanting to sit down and actually start to pre-plan.
Yes.
So
what a joy.
What a joy. So to really sit with somebody who had interest in their legacy and how they would build their legacy. And as one of my friends said, when you leave this world, you either leave your problems or you leave your legacy.
Yes.
And a good legacy is one that is well thought out. So
it is
spending years and years and years with people, and again, hundreds of people, just having these conversations about what are you doing to plan and prepare.
Yes.
So then back in 2019,
okay.
The Lord gave this to me. He said, I want you to write a book. And I came in and I sat down one morning in my office and sat down and wrote down 16 chapter titles.
Oh, wow.
Half of them I didn't know much about. Half of
Okay.
them I did.
Okay.
And that's when the whole process started. So that was in summer of 2019. And here we are today in 2022.
I love divine inspiration.
Yes.
I love that there is something for us to do at every moment in our lives. And earlier today, our show is a legacy show with a 91-year-old, and she was on oxygen and was saying, "Get up, everybody! Don't be a lump at the end of your life." And it's very exciting, Rick, that you have brought out in your chapters, which are very well organized, in beginning to think about it. Because the truth is, we want our favorite human emotion to be love, but it's not. It's denial, because that's what makes us be able to survive.
That's right.
And I already see in our comments community, we have two wonderful friends who are both widows, a widower, hi Mark, and a widow, hi Ruth. And they have lived these things over again and have really helped their families. And so for you to be talking about these issues right now, it's really very, very special. So your background, very strong. And just so everybody knows what kind of business you came from, I believe that was winemaking, wasn't it?
Well, partially. I was in the beer business, and I was in sales, and I ran a distributorship.
Very nice.
Yep. And before that, I was with another beverage company. So a lot of it was distribution, sales, but it was all related to people. All of it. Yeah.
That was the point. Very related to people. And writing a book that helps people to see age more like a business, it kind of makes it easier for them. And what you have done, I know because I'm trying to do it myself, to help people understand that aging and older life can really be a very organized thing that you move through for success. And, I love that word, success in aging. It's the name of my show. Anyway, but let's go back to this. You have a wonderful background. You've put it to good use. You have divine inspiration on this book. And now tell me, did you write the whole book yourself? Or I know the answer to this, but tell us how you brought in experts to back you up in every way.
Well, there's one thing that I learned in ministry.
Okay.
And that is, you cannot do it by yourself.
Good.
You have to have people around you. You have to have strong people. You need to train those people so that they can do the ministry of the church. And it's the same philosophy for the book.
Sure
I
is.
did not know it ended up being 13 chapters and not 16 chapters because some of them were reduced and then moved to appendices in the back.
Okay.
But what I did is I got 8 of the best people that I could find in industries that are more than experts. They could write their own books on their field of interest.
Good.
And we sat down and we collaborated. So the book from the beginning to the end has my personal story through each and every chapter, whether it's dealing with wills and trust or life insurance or VA benefits or Social Security, grieving, bereavement. Every one of those chapters has been thoroughly researched and either co-authored with a friend and an expert, or I wrote it on myself. And so to have 8 people that are just incredible in their fields to sit down and talk with them for weeks and have them author and then talk more and then edit and then weave my story in through there, my successes and my failures. And hopefully everybody can learn from both those. And I've had a lot of failures, things I just did wrong. I wish I would have had this book many, many years ago.
Yes. And that's what this everyone has been something he's heard from people as he's been writing it over and over again. I wish I would have had this book earlier, or I wish I would have known about this. But Rick, right now I'm going to take you to a place because, you know, two of our comments community right now are widowed. You and I are both widowed in our past. Would you please tell, because you were a young widower, would you please tell us a story and how you wove that into the book?
Well, I look at the very beginning of the book. It starts off with early in our marriage, and Susie, when we were dating, had breast cancer.
Okay.
And then she went through all the process, all the newest protocols for treating cancer.
Yes.
And we got married when she finished all that and she was feeling better. And it was this very, very small window of opportunity that she had a chance to buy life insurance. And as it turned out, that window of opportunity was 1 week long, because right after she bought it, she got a call from the oncologist who said the breast cancer has returned and metastasized to the bone. So in that 1 week of opportunity, she had a chance to buy life insurance. And that life insurance benefited both of her sisters, or one sister who is still alive but has post-polio severely.
Wow. You are frozen, and we froze right when Mary put up "It's a God thing." Thank you, Mary. And I'm just going to fill in for a moment while Rick. Okay.
There he is.
We're back.
We're back. Okay. So Rick, keep talking.
Yeah, so during that small opportunity, she bought life insurance.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the way the book starts off. And then some other stories about her is in the wills and trust. Is we had a will and a trust made for us. And during that time, I continued to talk to my father and mother about, you really need to have a minimum of a will, if not a trust. And they kind of hum-hawed around, and Susan and I showed them ours and why we did it and the importance of it. And they turned around and they had it, will and trust developed.
Fabulous.
What they did not know is that my mother died a year later.
Oh my.
And without that will or trust, everything would have come to a halt, would have been in probate.
That's
so through our experience, Susie and I, is they benefited. And the stories just continue on about those early years, about bereavement. And I had my own business when she was home with metastatic breast cancer, and taking care of her, and what I did to get time away. So it's just full of stories. Yeah.
Oh, everyone, I love the book. I've read the whole book. And I'm just looking up right now. This morning, what came over on my scripture for the day is this, and it's 2 Corinthians 1, verses 3 and 4. And it says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with a comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God." And I will tell you, everyone, that the book that Rick has written, and it's not quite out yet, he's about ready to do the final go through before the publisher starts setting the typeset. This book is full of comfort for you, because it's full of truth. And even it's not just one man's truth. It is backed up by experts and people and many, many stories. For him to, in the last 20 years, thank you, Mark, amen. In the last 20 years, to have sat with 400 people as they have come to the point of grieving not only whom they have lost, but what they have lost. We all know that we're the ones who are left, and we have to deal with so much. Rick's book, When It's Time, and Rick, would you take this moment and hold up the cover art? I would really appreciate that. Okay, and pull back just a little bit. Good. When It's Time, and it says, "End of life planning at any age. Make it a part of your legacy," by Rick Craig. And thank you, Rick. Beautiful. So everyone, you can, and I'm going to ask you, because this is not an Amazon type of book, but in our conversation, when people want to find the book, Rick, where are they going to purchase it?
Well, it's going to be available online at Amazon and other online stores like christianbook.com. It will not be available in Kindle. It will not.
Okay.
And a couple reasons why. And one of them is being a resource book is very different than reading a book for pleasure. Pleasure being just a novel.
I know.
It's very different. So it's going to be available in paperback.
Good.
My ideal and what I've been working with for the last year, the ideal means of getting the book is going to be working with people like the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization and getting
Wonderful.
people like hospice workers. And when you think about if you're talking to a life insurance agent or you're speaking to a wealth advisor, they all need something in their hand to show you, to give you to read and to take home.
Right.
I've contacted major medical providers, wealth advisors, insurance organizations, psychologists. All these people say, this is exactly what I've wanted and what I've needed, and I've had nothing. For an example, a hospice, head of hospice in Montana and Idaho is a friend of mine. And when I sent him the manuscript to read, he said, Rick, he said, I've been doing this for a long time. We have nothing to give to people, nothing that covers this many topics about end of life. He said, I will make sure that every hospice worker in both states has this book and they're giving it out regularly.
Fabulous.
So I hope that's the way that most of the book is distributed, is through that, because it's in the hands of people that will know it, that'll help them. It's a discussion point. So that'll be the main way of doing it. Yeah.
I see elder law attorneys. I see wonderful financial advisors like Nancy Potter, who just said hello. That's our Nancy from high school. Her husband's a major financial advisor. I can see, hurry up, Rick. I want this book. She has her dad at home, and he's in his 90s. He's wonderful. Love that man. Anyway, there are so many professionals who can use this. I want to see it in every hospital gift store. I would like to see this book in so many places that normal people go to, because every family deals with this. Every single family deals with aging of loved ones.
Yep. No one's excluded.
That's right. No one is excluded. And as of next week, you will have done 85 funerals in the last 21 months of COVID and this horrible lockdown. What have you learned from sitting with families as they grieve their loved ones during the pandemic?
You know, I think everyone has seen on television one time or another, family members being at retirement homes or nursing homes and looking in the window and holding their hands up to the window to try and touch one another.
Yes.
Or families sitting down on the parking lots in hospitals on the phone talking to a loved one in a hospital room. Yeah. What I've learned is that trauma, and that's really what it is, the trauma that survivors have experienced.
That's right.
I'm not sure will completely ever go away.
I agree with you.
What made it very, very difficult is during that 3-month period when everything was locked down and you could not see your loved one in a hospital, funeral homes were shut down, although they did receive the deceased and they did process everything they would have to do. But for 3 months, there were no funerals. There were no memorials. There was nothing.
Right. Longer here in Southern California, Rick.
Yeah, you'd have to do it at home. So what happened is months and months later, I was getting calls from people and saying, my family, my father, my mother, brother, sister, whoever passed away earlier during the year, and it's now 7 months later. Can we do a memorial service? And what I found for them, that did bring some healing, but there was a lot of pain associated with the fact that they could not see their loved one if they passed away in the hospital ever again in person, because that person was then processed, because we didn't know the effects of COVID.
That's right.
And you could not see your loved one. So many people, where they had a family member die, the last time they saw them is when they took them to the hospital, they were picked up and taken to the hospital, or maybe at home if they passed away. Yeah. So that was extremely difficult for a lot of people. In fact, in the Napa area, I think I was the only one officiating services when the government opened up again. Wow. And it was all outdoor, minimum of 10 people. And it might be 3 services for the same person with 10 people per service outdoors. Wow. Anything to try and have a service for their loved one.
That's right.
So it was an extremely difficult period, and things have gotten much better.
Yes.
Much better. But what I've also noticed is that you would think that during COVID and during that entire time, things would have changed drastically how people planned for end of life.
You'd think, but
And what I've experienced is there's been no difference at all.
no. We don't know how to, Rick. That's why we're waiting for your book. We don't. Like I said, we want love to be the favorite human emotion, but denial is, and death is, since it's so final, the denial is so strong so that we ourselves don't have heart attacks or, drop dead through the
Well, you know what I've found also is it's part of that is denial. And that's a very important word to attach to this because it just is.
Yes.
But the other part that I hear constantly is, I don't know even how to begin the conversation.
That's right.
I don't know what the topics are to even have a discussion. And I don't have a manual in front of me to lead me into a family discussion.
Yep.
Because when you've got 6 or 7 people, there's 6 or 7 beginning points, not one beginning point. So the book allows people, and there's 2 terms that everyone that reads the book will learn. The terms are pre-need and at-need.
Yes.
Pre-need means that you are doing some planning before end of life.
Yes.
To whatever extent you do, there's some planning. Hopefully you've done a lot of planning.
Yes.
At need means death just occurred, and now this is our beginning point.
Yes.
So you can see the difference of the term is some planning, discussion, or complete planning is done, or there's no planning. And unfortunately, the no planning to extremely little planning represents probably 75, 80, 85% of the situations.
That's right.
End of life event. And that's what I walk into and what other pastors walk into.
That's right. And when you have people, and when things are at need, you tend to have frantic people.
That's right.
Either a child or a spouse, an adult child or an adult spouse, one of the grandkids, someone who they know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know. And that's when you have clashes with family members, when it is an at-need situation.
That's right.
I cannot stress it enough how thrilled I am. Yes, Mark. People, this is so important. Mark has gone through this. Wendy passed in 2020, could not have a funeral.
Yeah.
I've gone to funerals with friends whose parents also died in 2020, and we had to have a funeral in 21 because of this need. And I will say now, because I know your history, you are, I believe, the official chaplain for the Veterans Home in Napa. Am I right?
No, I have been there a lot.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time at Sacramento Valley National Cemetery for veterans. In fact, I'll be there next week doing a service.
God bless you.
So no, I'm not the chaplain for the Veterans Hospital, although I love veterans. They are wonderful, wonderful people.
They are.
Yeah.
I have to say, those are one of our categories of people we serve: seniors, the disabled, widowed, and our wonderful veterans. And in fact, at this moment, I am going to draw everyone's attention to the photo behind Rick's head. That is his dad in his military uniform. Tell us about it, Rick.
That is my dad at age 17, World War II, the Royal Navy.
Wow.
Yeah.
As in Britain, the Royal Navy?
Royal Canadian Navy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Canadian. Got it.
So I grew up in Canada, so we were flying the Union Jack. So that was pre-Canadian flag with the maple leaf on there. But that's him at age 17 years old. He lied about his age, said he was 18. And he was on a ship called the Corvette, very fast ship, and they chased submarines.
Wow.
And dropping depth charges. That's what he did in the Atlantic.
Wow. Very, very nice. I think your dad is probably safely in heaven now, yes?
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. Or I would have you thank him for me for his service.
5 years ago.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's another photo behind you that has to do with family. What is that?
Right below my dad is Lauren's grandfather, and that's a baseball pitcher, and I believe that he played minor league baseball in Louisiana.
Very nice.
And that's a picture of him. Yep.
Very nice. Don't you have a little bit of athletic prowess in your own background, Rick?
There is some baseball involved in there. Yep.
Yay.
Played college and played after that for a little bit.
Fabulous.
Had a wonderful time doing it, but that was a long time ago.
It was, but it goes towards the well-roundedness of you and your personal history in writing this book. You really understand personal relationships and interfamily relationships in a very, very special way. And that leads us to our next question, that how has COVID affected families pertaining to their funerals? And is there a different grief response, in your opinion, after COVID for the last 20 years of your experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think during the COVID, if we could call about the mood as a tone,
Okay.
I would say the tone was one of anger and frustration.
Yes.
I think partially because of a virus that nobody really fully understood.
Right.
And with all the shutdowns and the inability to connect with loved ones,
Yes.
that
I totally get it.
It just bothered a lot of people and created a lot of anger and frustration. Since then, there has been more understanding of what we're facing during this pandemic, and with the loosening of the mandates where people can attend service now, even if it's a smaller number of people, at least they can do that. So there's
right.
a big difference between not knowing and anger and frustration versus working through this. There's still the shock of a family member who dies of COVID, and of the 85 of the last less than 2 years, there's only been 3 or 4 that I've officiated that died from COVID.
Okay.
But there's still a lot of fear and a lot of frustration when funeral homes are shut down and they couldn't hold the service. Things have really loosened up now. People are starting in that area of funerals and memorials are starting to feel more relaxed because of all the shutdowns aren't there, all the mandates aren't there like they were before. So there is more of a release now. People are not emotionally hanging on to this. They're allowing their grief to really take that journey, which is good.
They can let down.
Yeah.
And as we let down, it decreases our stress. And when we decrease our stress, we increase our life. And yes, Ruth, you could not have a memorial service for your uncle due to COVID, I remember. And those are sadnesses that are added to it. My daughter got married during COVID. I could not be there. Fortunately, we had the party the year later, and I got to zip up the dress. But at that day, just the mix of feelings in people's lives. I mean, births, deaths, and marriages are 3 of the strongest things that keep our society together and keep our families together. And, you know, I had a granddaughter born during lockdown. No one could go to the hospital. Fortunately, my son was able to sleep in the same room. It was a long event, so he could be there. But for people, very dear friend who passed away, and his wife could not be with him until they were ready to unplug him from life support. And these stories over and over again go into what your main message here is on this show today. And that is grief is overwhelming, and we need intelligent education and an outline when we are grieving, when we are surprised, when we are in shock. And your book is that outline. And I am so thrilled that the book, when it's time, will be that guide. So Rick, when the book is published, I think we've already talked about how we can buy it. But now there's something exciting, listeners and viewers. Rick is going to offer an hour's worth of consulting with him after you read it, so you can feel like you can get on the track. Rick, tell us all about this awesome opportunity.
Well, on the website, which should be up the middle of March when the book is printed and ready for sale, there's going to be a tab on the website where you can click on. It'll be a calendar. So if somebody wanted to book an appointment for an hour online, either through Zoom or phone call, they can do that. And the reason I put that feature on the website is I get so many calls from people that said, I got your name and number because you officiated a funeral a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 years ago. Can we talk and can you lead me through this? And so in order to try and control my schedule, it's going to be on there where people can say, I have questions about the book. I have questions about one of the topics in the book, anything at all. So I'm going to make myself available a certain number of hours per day and each week. So if somebody wants to talk, we can do that.
Fabulous.
Actually, if I could interrupt for a second, Rick, that would be an excellent upsell. That if an organization bought a large number of your books for any kind of like Amazon number one bookseller campaign, having personal connection with you would actually be something that people would pay extra for or buy in bulk from. So I think that might be actually something you can use in your bestseller campaign to help increase your sales and encourage groups like hospice that you would, as part of their buying 100 books, you would give a personal talk either by Zoom or in person, depending on the deal. So I would encourage you to do that versus offering it just to anyone who bought a book. It might be like the first 10 or something.
Mary,
so we can talk about that more.
I was just about to say, I couldn't have Rick on my show again in the next, gazillion years.
Yeah. Well, there will
Just
be
an idea.
There will be a cost to book an hour with Rick. So there will be a cost on the website. But on the website, I will be selling case sales also. So
fantastic.
Because I've had friends. In fact, one of the people that endorsed the book in the very back is a retired chief of police. And he said during his career, he wished he would have had these books that he could have given out to families grieving at the scene. And I've got other friends that are chaplains, and one friend of mine is the sheriff. And he said, Rick, as soon as the book is available, I'm going to buy a case and give it to all the deputy sheriffs so that they have the book to read. And then they'll all have a talking point, a beginning point.
Well, make sure that your publisher goes to Costco and gets you in at Costco, because I know people in the elder care world who would go buy cases of books to give out. And in that specific case, it was devotionals or something that would give people a real sense of comfort. Right. Your book is that comfort that I read the scripture earlier on, because you became comforted by the Lord. And I'd like to, as we're winding down our show, I want you to tell everyone how the Lord comforted you. I believe you became a widower at about 42. And it took a few years, but someone wonderful came into your life, and you are not a widow at the present time. So, although those of us who are widowed are always widows, but Rick, tell us your love story. It's almost Valentine's Day.
That's right. Well, Susie passed away, and as I say in the book, I wasn't prepared for that, even after all the preparation we had done, and I'm talking about emotionally, with all the trust and wills, we had done all that, but emotionally, I wasn't ready for that. Yeah. And it was probably 6 months or a year after that, some people from church in a meeting said to me, Rick, do you think you'll ever get married again? And I said, absolutely not. The pain was just too great. I'm not ever going to go there again unless the Lord puts somebody in front of me and it is proven that this is a person that he has given to me to be my wife. Yeah. And he did sometime after that. Wow. So there's no question in my mind, and her name is Lauren. Incredible lady. Love her to death.
Incredible. I love you, Lauren.
We have a lot of fun together. In fact, I was up here just last summer, and you had a chance to meet Lauren.
That's right.
And we just have a wonderful time together. So I'm one of those people, but I was asked by another group of people, was a Christmas service at a funeral home a number of years ago. Uh-huh. And there's about 150 people there. And the funeral home did that for survivors, and they to try and fill this void. Yeah. And they had me speak at it. And I can remember holding up my hand and my ring, and I said, because the Lord has given me a person in my life, doesn't mean that you have to compare yourself with me, because there's other ways that you can find fulfillment and joy. So I said, please don't compare yourself to me. And I had a chance to talk to a lot of those widowers and widows afterwards.
I bet you did.
And they said that was the key statement, is you don't have to get married to find joy and fulfillment, although some people do. Either way is okay.
Yes.
Whatever works for the person.
That's exactly right. And that's a great encouragement to us because, we don't know tomorrow, but we know who holds tomorrow.
That's
That's what's wonderful. Our God is a God of pure love. And there's always a plan for our very best in his mind and heart for us. And so that is so special. So one last thing, Mary's put up your book over here. Everybody take a look at that, take a picture, et cetera, et cetera. But Rick, you have just gotten a recent, very special endorsement. I mean, just Die Patterson alone, I'm sure would, have been good for the book. No. Tell us who just endorsed you.
Yeah. Boy, what a gift it is. And Rick Warren at the top of the book there, he had written, "This is a beautiful and deeply needed resource. Rick has given us all a gift." And what he's referencing in terms of beautiful is weaving the story through in my story. Not that I'm anything wonderful or attention drawn to, but it's written as my story, the success and failures and everybody involved in my story. And then the resource part is from these incredible co-authors that have written it with me. Yes. But again, 5 of the chapters I wrote from just personal experience and doing research. So to have him endorse that to me was not only encouragement, but it was also a sign to say, the Lord is saying you're right on track.
That is so fabulous because it's true. Number one. Number two, I believe that our life journeys, we live them. The Lord wastes nothing. And so if we've gone through something, we're to encourage others with that. And you are actually a huge resource because many men do not lose their wives first. Many men do think that everything will be fine after they pass. And that is the furthest from the truth. I am, very blessed to have been married to a conservatorship and trust attorney and probate attorney. So, fortunately we work these things out very early, but, these are very hard things for people to survive when they are in shock, when they're in great grief. And I, again, thank you so much, Rick Craig, for writing the book. When it's time, I can hardly wait for it to be published because I am going to buy at least 3 cases to give away.
You get a discount too.
Yay! Well, everybody, from Success in Aging show and Success in Aging boxes, I think I still have it here. We want to thank Rick Craig today for being our special guest. Rick, may I please have you on in a few more months when this book is out?
I look forward to it. Thank you, Di. Appreciate it.
Great. You're so welcome. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up. Everyone, I'm just looking at your comments. Thank you so much for showing up today, everyone. And as Mary always says, people who are watching this in archives, please also do make a comment because we circle back and we'll answer your questions. You're not in a dead space with us. It's very alive. So again, Pastor Rick Craig, in March, you can go to his website, whenitstime.org.
.com. Yeah, .org. Sorry.
.org. Yep. And Rick, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay. Mary, are you coming back?
Make sure you don't drop off because we're going to take a quick picture, right? Okay. Forgot to say that before we jumped on. So I'm going to jump off. You guys say goodbye, and we'll see you guys next week for another exciting episode of Success in Aging TV. No, Success in Aging Show.
One day.
Right. It's been a day.
TV. I own that. I own that name too.
You own everything, Di.
You know what? Smart, proper prior planning. It's like, get it? Yeah. And then when you're older and you have more time to do these things, we cannot sit around. Thank you, Nancy. So good to see your face.
Yep. And thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Ruth, another classmate of ours, Rick, Ruth, and Mark. Yes. Yep. All right, everybody. We love you. See you next week. Thank you, Rick.
Okay, Di. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Bye.